This short video is going to talk about feed laws and labeling, particularly the labeling component, and what must be included upon feed labels. We're going to outline those requirements and then take a look at a couple sample labels and identify the individual components. Back in 1909, the state agriculture departments instituted the first regulations that required feed labeling. They did that as a way to ensure orderly commerce, making sure that everybody was disclosing ingredients, then to protect the consumers, to make sure that you were buying a quality product and that you knew what you were getting, and by having everything fully labeled. It was also to protect the feed industry from setting up unfair competitions and being deceptive in their practices. It provided basically an auditing system and a quality assurance system to make sure that the consumers were protected and the feed industry was protected from any risks. Full disclosure, everything is out there in the open to make sure everybody is aware of the product that they are getting. And so that was first regulated in 1909 and continues to this day. Feed labels are required to be attached to either individual bags, or if you were to buy bulk feeds, it needs to be available for inspection. An exception to that is if you do have a custom feed formula. For example, our sheep and goat unit, we order a custom grain mix that is made by Ayla Gilbert out of Oakdale. However, they do send me everything that would be on the label. I have full disclosure of what ingredients are in there, but I've worked with them on that formula. But they don't, it's not, because they've worked with me on that, I have an awareness of what's in that product, and so it's not required for inspection. However, if you are buying a bulk feed, say a commercial grain mix that's available from Bar Ale in Williams, they have to have all of their feed labels available for bulk inspection or attached to those individual bags. There's numerous components that need to be on these bags. The first is the product name and the brand name. So sometimes there is a specific brand, not just the product name. It also needs to have a purpose, the guaranteed analysis of what the nutrient content is of that feed, an ingredient list, directions for use, any warnings that need to go along with that, particularly if it's a medicated feed, the name and the address of the manufacturer, and a net weight. And the net weight is either going to be the weight of the sack, or it's going to be indicate bulk weight if you're buying it by the ton. But those are the things that has to be on a feed label. So let's take a look at a couple examples. The first thing we take a look at, and I'll kind of highlight these as we go. Here is the net weight. You notice right here on top, it's a 50-pound sack of feed. And here is the name of the product. Okay, it doesn't have a brand name, it's just a high-energy beef conditioner. There's a clear statement of purpose that is being fed to newly weaned and preconditioning cattle. Next is followed by the guaranteed analysis. It includes, in this example, protein, fat, fiber, calcium, phosphorus, salt, potassium, and vitamin A. And you notice that sometimes it's just minimums or maximums. It's not exact, but it gives you a rough idea of what the product contains. Now, if we take a look at the ingredient list, the next section, remember how we talked about ingredient lists that AAFCO uses generalized categories? Take a look here. You'll see examples like grain products, processed grain byproducts, plant protein products. So we have a list of ingredients, but you notice it's not very specific. That's probably an indication that this feed is low cost because of the generic ingredients. They have maximum flexibility to change out products within that, keeping their guaranteed analysis the same, which allows them to generate the cheapest ration for that sale. As we take a look through here, you'll also see that there's feeding instructions, and that there is a caution about a warning that it has added selenium, and making sure that you're meeting those requirements. Furthermore, it's got the manufacturer as well on there. So that's just kind of an example of how we would break down this label and take a look at it. The second feed we have to look at is another feed label I found online that you'll notice we've got the net weight, we've got the address of the manufacturer and the name of the manufacturer, we've got the feed name, we've got some directions for feeding, we have a guaranteed analysis, and you notice it's not a very big guaranteed analysis. They don't have to, there's not really a set like, this I think is probably the minimum that you'll see, but it doesn't really have to be an extensive guaranteed analysis. There's also an ingredient list, and you notice this one is more specific than the previous one, so it's a very set feed. But that just gives you a couple examples of some feed labels and how you look at them in terms of evaluating what is in that product. Don't forget, if you read your student learning outcomes for this week, there is an opportunity to bring in a feed label, label it correctly for extra credit.